Well, g'day, James. Welcome to the show, mate. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks, Pete.
It's all right, man. Man, could you just quickly just fill us in for people who might not have heard of you? For me, in the internet space, that's kind of hard to believe. But for the people that haven't heard of you, could you just quickly tell us a little bit about your story, and maybe something that you're working on at the moment?
Well, I've got primarily internet-based business. About 4 years ago, I quit my job, and I was working on getting to that position for about 3 years prior to that. So I've been interested in the internet side of things since about 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized that I wanted my own business. So I decided to learn as much as I can about how do you actually sell things on the internet? How do you build a website? And I chipped away at it part-time. And eventually I was able to leave my job. And over the last 4 years, I've really rapidly grown my business to cover a few different areas. And we'll probably touch on a couple by way of example,
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah.
And but if you can imagine this, I'm basically work from home and I have a whole team, but they're in another country that work with me in my business. But they're what you'd call, I guess, remote staff, so they all sit at their house as well, and we all collaborate together online, and we serve thousands of customers through our websites.
Okay.
So what am I working on right now?
Yeah.
A lot, like most entrepreneurial style people, probably 5 times more things than I could actually ever get to. But I've got a very, very busy SEO business at the moment, and we are orders are just coming in thick and fast. So right now I'm working on increasing our capacity to be able to actually deliver these services as fast as possible. And the other thing that I've just started in the last week or so is to start actually selling some of my websites and domains and businesses, because that's just one part of the thing, is to always assess where you're up to and to take stock of what you can focus on and what you don't want to focus on or you just will never get to, and then to reduce, to eliminate waste or resources that you no longer need. So I guess it's like a garage sale.
An internet garage sale.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, man. So, yeah, because I've noticed when I check out your Facebook stuff, when I'm ever looking at your websites and things, you do have a lot of websites. I mean, you didn't start off all big everywhere all at once, and now you're sort of culling it down. What did you first kind of get into? And then we'll dig back, and I want to get your story of. I was just watching your video before, and of your whole kind of work history. I thought it was really, really interesting, and I think there's a lot of lessons in there. But what was your first kind of internet thing that you did that kind of worked? Maybe it worked massively or maybe not, but what was the first thing that got you started?
Well, my big struggle was trying to build a website. I knew that I thought it would be a valuable skill to have, but it was just so frustrating. And I eventually caved in and bought some software that helped me build a website. And being quite pragmatic, I thought I'll use this software to build a website as an example. So that I can just learn everything about it. I'll just roll up the sleeves and build a website. So the first example site that I built was a website about how to use this software to build a website.
Yeah.
And I put my affiliate link, and for someone who, if you don't know what affiliate means, that is it's like my sales link for the software, where if people were to click on that and make a purchase, then I would get a commission. And one day someone actually bought the software from my link, and that was, I guess, my first real sale online. It was actually the second one. The first one was me buying the software, and I'd already put my wife's affiliate link, and I accidentally earned a commission from my own sale. So it was exciting, but also disappointing at the same time. So the first actual sale to someone else was very exciting. I'm like, whoa, hang on. So I can put up a website, and anyone anywhere in the world who's interested in this same software that has the same problem that I had can click on a link here and make a purchase, and I get commission. I am all over this. So I dedicated my every effort into building this website up, and then learning about how to compel people to click on that link, and then how to get this website in front of more people. And I built that project up. It slowly built up, to 3 sales a month, and then 5 sales a month, and then 10 sales a month. And one day I turned to my wife and I said, you know what? If we could just sell like 10 of these a day, I wouldn't even have to have a job. And that was like such a revelation. And anyway, I built this thing up to $10,000 a month, and then so that was half my salary, and I was on about $300,000 a year, and I got this thing up to nearly $150,000 in just sales commission from this one campaign, and so I was halfway there, and the last half was through a different business model, which was completely different. But when I combined the two, I was able to quit my job, and that was the goal, and that was the prize. And 4 years down the track, life couldn't be more different than when I was driving a desk.
So what was that second business model? So the first one was just straight out affiliate link.
My friends knew that I was into this because I couldn't stop talking about it. It's like an infectious bug, and it's like some kind of virus.
Yeah.
And you become obsessed with it. And a couple of my friends referred me to their friends. So one friend referred me to a solicitor that his wife worked at. They were asking questions about this internet stuff. And he said, so he was asking me questions saying, what would you do with this? And what would you do with that? And I said, why don't I just ring the guy? So I spoke to this guy and I said, well, if your website's terrible and you're not getting any results, let me build a website for you and then look after it. And he said, okay. And then another friend of mine referred me to a car dealer who was not getting the results they wanted. And I had the same conversation. I said, look, the website you've got now sucks. And you can do a lot with this and I can help you with it. And they said yes. And basically, I took both of those customers on, and each of them were $5,500 a month. So that was my other $11,000 a month. So that combined with my affiliate income matched my salary. I'm like, wow. And I just had this sort of feeling. Well, I can actually get rid of this pesky 8 hours a day in someone else's joint, building up their wealth. Yeah. And if I don't have that interruption to my day, I could really do a lot more with this internet stuff. And so it was the most frightening thing ever to quit a $300,000 a year job in a very prestigious Mercedes-Benz dealership, which I was running. I had 2 Mercedes-Benz cars as part of my package, and it was reasonably close to home, and it wasn't the worst job in the world. And for most people, that'd be the pinnacle, like the ultimate goal. And for me, I couldn't wait to get rid of it. And I could see the onset of financial calamity coming in the United States. This is 4 years ago. And I realized, I'm on borrowed time. I could go into work any day and lose my job, and I have nothing. I've got 4 kids, I have a mortgage, and I had a share portfolio, and it could just go up in smoke if I lost my job. So this ability to create my own income, I guess, was real freedom, where and a job is actually the biggest compromise you could ever have. If all your income depends on it, you're single source dependent, and that's very dangerous. So it was frightening and exciting all at the same time. And I still touch myself sometimes. I pinch myself and say, is this real? I can't be sacked anymore. I can't lose my job. And I've got all these different revenue streams, so I'm quite well protected against disaster now, which is good. And I have no debt either, not a dollar in debt. Paid off all my debts, purchased cars for cash, and I've traveled around the world about 3 times in the last 4 years. So I've lived a lot in the last 4 years compared to the 20 years prior to that.
And it sounds like a lot of people are driven. I've got to make this thing work. I want residual income, and that's the big catch cry. And residual income, passive income, and they want to do it. It sounds like you kind of stumbled into it, and you just dug it so much, you just did it, and it kind of worked out.
Well, look, I was the general manager of a $50 million a year business. So I do understand the fundamentals of profit and cash flow and building assets. So I wouldn't say it's accidental. But what I would say is that I recognize the power and the leverage of being able to, I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you on a little wafer-thin laptop, you know?
Yeah.
This tiny little device, I can operate a business from, a multi-million-dollar a year empire from a little laptop. That is leverage. And to be able to sleep in and not have to answer to anyone and to do whatever I want today. I mean, after we speak today, I'm going to pick up a friend and we're going in to have a look at something in the city. And we just decided we'll do that yesterday. And then I'm going to go and have dinner with friends on the way home. That's sort of my day planned at the moment. And it's nice to be able to do that and not have to do something. I think that's the real freedom in it. I recognize that. See, I was sitting in a shop effectively. A Mercedes dealership is like a shop, and we could only sell one product to the local area. We weren't even allowed to sell to interstate buyers. We couldn't sell BMWs or Audis. We could only sell Mercedes-Benz, and only to people in the geographic area. It was kind of restricted. Now I can sell anything to anyone via a website. I could set up a website selling kettlebells. I could set up a website selling Barbie dolls, like anything you could think of. You could set it up and you can get in the game, and that's powerful.
Okay, so let's think about someone who might be thinking about doing something similar to what you've done, right? They maybe have a passion, they have a product that they want to sell, right? But they don't really have the know-how, or it's easy to set up a website these days. I mean, you can set up a WordPress site. It's very cheap to actually make a website, probably much easier than when you started. You were probably working with tables and things.
Well, for that reason, I set up a service. People can go along to Superfast websites. They can pay $199 and their website will be up the same day. I mean, there's no barrier to entry like there was when I started. It took me 6 months to build my first website.
Yeah. What's the link to that, man? To that?
Superfastwebsites.com.
Okay, guys, that'll be in the show notes just below when this video goes live, so you'll be able to just click over there and check that out. That sounds like a pretty mad deal. So for someone just to get started out, right, it's not just set up a website. What do you see a lot of people do when they first start out with setting up a website? They just think it's going to be magical. I've got a website.
Well,
when are the checks going to roll in?
I did publish a product called It's Not About the Website, funnily enough. Mm-hmm. And the whole theme of that was, everyone's missing the point. This is not about... See, I made a mistake when I started trying to learn that stuff, and guess what? Today, I'm not a web developer. I don't want to be a web developer. Web developers are pretty restricted in terms of their wage because ultimately they're a technician, and I want to be a generalist. I want to be the general of the army or the conductor of the orchestra. I don't have to know how to play the instrument. I just have to know how to conduct the orchestra. So as the biggest mistake people make is they start trying to be the technician. And that's like the more skilled people are with tech stuff, the harder it is for them to become the marketer or the strategist and to run a business at arm's length. So I suggest that the other thing that people obsess about is make money, and that's why you see them putting all these spammy links and hitting up their friends on Facebook, just like any good old-fashioned MLM marketer or whatever. They spray people with links. It's not about making money. It's about creating as much value as you can to solve other people's problems. And when you understand that, you're on the pathway. So my goal is to be able to solve problems for people. And I need to solve problems for a lot of people because they pay me in return for that. The money is the byproduct of helping someone out, helping improve someone from where they're at to a better situation. They will pay for that. So, for example, the website. If someone is sitting there watching this and they do not have a website today and they don't know how to build one, then that's a problem. So my company solves that problem, and people will happily hand over $199 to have a website today or tomorrow. and because that solves their problem, and we've delivered value for someone. I mean, I have a full-time team of web developers sitting there building websites, and they are very experienced. They read all the books. They know about PHP and CSS and WordPress and hosting and cPanel and all the stuff that most marketers really don't need to have an in-depth knowledge of. You just need to have enough knowledge to know who to get to help you with those components. That's all.
Okay, and so that's
as it matures. Then there's less and less need to be the specialist, because there's people coming into the market all the time with these skills. There's many skilled technicians. There's not many skilled generalists.
So what it sounds like there is your website's more about the strategy behind what the website's going to do for you than the actual website
Simply,
itself.
How do you get out to the market and solve problems and explain that to people and let them pay you for it? That's the game.
Okay, just quickly then, what's your favorite marketing strategy then? What are you doing? Because you hang out on Facebook a bit, so you sort of your links and your messages come up on the side there. I'm figuring you're probably not just hanging out there all day long. Like, what are you actually doing that generates traffic to your website, gets people there, they're engaged? You're finding your exact right customer, so that when they arrive on your website, they go, I found it. Here it is. What do you do? What do you do now that's working for you the best?
The very best thing you can do is put the best content you can on your website. It's like this interview that you're doing. That will be good content for people to come and find, and hopefully it's good enough that they would actually tell other people about it. And that is the best strategy of all, because if your customer is watching this and they like it, and then they tell their friend and they like it, and then they tell their friend, now you're creating a pull market where people are coming to you, and you don't have to go and buy ads in the paper to say, hey, check out my podcast, because your customers resonate with it and they tell other people, and it is actually valuable, because if we talk about something that they didn't already know, then we're starting to solve some problems there that maybe they didn't even know they had.
So content is the first, but okay, so I get that as well, because get people to talk about it. Make something so good that people talk about it. You don't have to market.
Share-worthy, and that's what Facebook is. It's social. Yeah, it's a two-way street. People socialize. I mean, I didn't know you that long ago, did I?
No.
But here we are.
I knew you. I've been watching you for the last year or two. But
I didn't know you. But you said hi, and we exchanged we socialized, and agreed that it'd be a good idea to talk about some of this stuff. And here we are. And now, when you put the podcast out, your customers will find me, and my customers will find you. I'll go and put this podcast on my media page. Yeah. So all the people coming to my site, like say there's 20,000 people a month coming to my site. Some of them will click on the link and find you. So this is cross-pollinating databases. Yeah. It's a host-beneficiary relationship where you actually, and you can learn this stuff from Jay Abraham, who's the guy that I learnt it from. It's where you find out who's got your customers, and then you do a deal with them to cross-pollinate those databases.
And what would the tactic there, or the idea there, is that to serve them in a way that's different than, say,
you're already taken and I'm already taken, right? So we are not the same person, so we're already different. Yeah.
So because that sort of reminds me of my first business, where now actually, which has kind of miserably gone down. Another story for another day. My listeners kind of know a little bit about that. But basically, my first business is I'm a Xerox technician, a photocopier technician. I had a guy who sold machines. I left and started servicing the machines that he sold, and he had a customer base where you'd sell a machine, put a sticker on it. When it breaks down, call Pete. They're shaking their hand right in there in person, and it's like, okay, deal done. Business just went off. So we shared. That sounds like a very similar thing, but that's kind of a real world example as opposed to a virtual online example.
Well, so you just find someone in a non-compete thing, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Complementary.
He could say, hey, I've got a service guy, and I could say, oh, you want a machine? Go to this guy, and so it works.
Exactly.
Together.
It's like a guy that installs fences might have a relationship with a landscape gardener. He might be putting in a fence and say, I notice your garden's out of control. I've got a friend, Bob, who can come and fix that for you. And then the gardener can be fixing someone's garden and say, I just noticed your fence is rotten. My friend Bill is really good with fences. Do you want me to put you in touch? So this is a host-beneficiary relationship.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think that's kind of a big point that people miss, is developing those, I wouldn't say strategic relationships, but just making friends with people in the same space as you? Because that's basically what this show is about. I'm just making friends with people who, I don't know, I might be able to help them out. They might be able to help me out. There's no
It's all about relationships. People say that the money's in the list, but the money's in the relationship with the people who are on the list.
Yeah.
So it's certainly been a key to my business, is the relationships that I have. I used to sell face-to-face in a showroom for years. I spoke to thousands of people. And in doing that, I got to be able to communicate with people comfortably. And I found that's helped my online business, incidentally, from going to events offline. So you go and meet people in the United States or the UK or even locally, and you get to know them. Most of my best customers I know, and I've met most of them face-to-face these days at some point or another. That's why I travel a little bit, because I want to go and meet them and develop those relationships. And I've met everyone who works in my team. Even though they're in another country, I've met all my business partners face to face. It sounds funny, but the first business partner that I had in a 6-figure a year business, so we're doing hundreds of thousands a year together, and I hadn't even met him face to face for the first year and a half. Yeah. He was in Switzerland, of all places. But I have he's come to Sydney, he's come to Queensland. And I've been to Switzerland. I've been to his house, and we've climbed mountains and been to restaurants and stuff. So, really is an unbelievable world that we live in now, where you can do these things.
Yeah, the connections makes the fact that we can be so connected right now. Where are you actually? I'm out at Kurrajong. I think you're a Sydney sider, or you used to be. Are you in Sydney at the moment?
Yeah, I'm in Sydney. We live on acreage in Sydney, so I'm sitting in the middle of a farm.
And we can do this. It's just amazing. I love the technology as a tool rather than being sort of a slave to the technology. But we could do this in a real space and do something with it as well. If we were in the same room.
This laptop, I have travelled around the world with this laptop. It's been to Europe. It's been to the United States. It's been to Asia. And it's here now. But if I have this computer and an internet connection, which I can usually just piggyback it to my iPhone, then I'm in business. I mean, I've done this from Egypt. I've done it from the desert in Phoenix. It really is mind-blowing. And then the thing is, I can even turn it off for a day or two, and the team can look after stuff. So there's that leverage in having a real business and having other people in the business, so that you're not the whole business, which is the other mistake that people make, is they try to do it all themselves. You're not going to get too far by yourself. I was able to get into the hundreds of thousands by myself, but not the millions. And I think probably only a few people, maybe someone who speaks on stage about internet marketing can make the 7 figures a year by themselves, but they're not really doing it by themselves, and they're not really doing it on the internet. They're talking about the internet, but it's mostly a fantasy story.
Tell me while we're on that subject, can you talk a bit about that? That's the kind of make money by teaching people how to make money, but they haven't actually done the thing in the first place. What's your view on that style of thing? Because everyone here that's probably watching this is a speaker, maybe going to be a speaker, or thinking about it in that space. Just
have integrity. I did some speaking, and I left that industry because there's so many liars and charlatans. I know this because I've actually built websites for some of them. I've been privy to their background. I know that some of them are virtually bankrupt, but they get up there and talk about their millions. It's absolute bullshit. So if you go along to these events, you need to demand proof from these people up on stage. They just tell lies. There's one guy who's used the same case studies for 7 years in a row, and they were actually made up in the first place. He told me this sitting there in a coffee one day, and I was just flabbergasted. I'm like, how do you do this? How do you even sleep at night? But they actually get so narcissistic and so demented that they can't even see how evil it is. So here's my thing. I don't think real internet marketers are on stage every weekend. It's a sure sign that someone makes all their money from selling dreams, not from the internet. And demand proof. Ask to see some screenshots of statements and verify. Before you hand over $4,000 or $5,000 to someone on stage. These guys are professional manipulators, and they know all the triggers and hot points. And the talk that they speak about in privately is just disgusting. The way that they talk about their marks and all the psychological tactics they're using to basically, and the other person to blame is the idiot sitting in the audience who just believes all the bullshit. I mean, all common sense goes out the window when someone's sitting there. They, for some reason, will just hand over $5,000 to someone based on a funny story that makes them laugh 50 times in an hour and a half.
It makes them go like this.
Yeah, well, of course, and they're anchoring them with the hand raising, and they're just teasing them with very seductive stories, and they make them dream. Now, if you actually have a good product or service to sell that does help people, which I did, then you shouldn't feel bad about helping people be better off. And a good, solid part of my community are people who came to an event that I ran. I've run about 8 events. But I've had outstanding feedback from these events, and these people are still my customers now, and that's saying something. Whereas the other people are just selling the same thing to the new round of suckers coming in each week, and it's just disgusting. And I don't know how it's not more heavily regulated, and I hope one day they all go to jail. Yeah,
excellent, man, excellent. Because that's what That's kind of not my purpose of this show, but this is what I want to get from my guests that come on, is get it how it is. Because I think a lot of people are being sucked in they're buying hope, I think,
they are, and they actually feel like when they're paying that money, they feel as though they got the end result, and that's really what the speaker is hoping that will happen. It's a terrible industry. I'm not saying everyone in that industry is bad. I'm just saying that I saw a lot of things that disgusted me and did not sit with my values. So I decided to run my business without speaking from stage and selling high-priced things. I'm happy to sell those products, my products, but I was not happy to stand on the same platform where the guy before me and the guy after me is lying through his teeth. I don't want to be associated with that. I think that's it's really not honourable.
So what happens at your events? Like you've only done 8. I mean, some of these guys do 8 in a month. So you've only done 8 events. What happens at your event? Is it more like a training weekend or something like that? Yeah,
well, the last 3 in a row that I ran were called Fast Web Formula, 1, 2, and 3, and it's me and then some of my friends, like real people who actually do get results. They come and talk about what they do, and there's no I wouldn't call them a pitch event. People pay to come and they get quality content and they get really good notes. And what I did is record them all, luckily, and I've leveraged the recordings. I put them all into a membership which people can join, and they can watch all of these recordings now, and they can hone whatever it is that they want to learn. If they want to learn how to write compelling sales copy, they can watch the session from the world's best copywriter. I've had, I think, 2 or 3 copywriters come along to my events and just share their best tips for
who are those guys?
Half an hour or an hour, like John Carlton, and Alexi Near-Klaus, who's one of Australia's best copywriters. These guys come and share because they're my friends, and I've asked them to come. They fly from other countries in some cases. My friend from Switzerland's come a couple of times to talk about how he's making over 7 figures a year as an affiliate. This guy sits in his quiet little place in Switzerland, raking it in. He's not famous. He's not well known. He just actually does the job. And, him and I have partnered in a multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year venture for 3.5 years in a row. So we're the real deal. But these other guys, they wouldn't even know how to put up a web page, unfortunately.
No, no. And so, can we dig back just a little now? Well, just a little. Let's dig back a lot, right? Because that's what you're doing now. That's all the internet stuff, and that's kind of what you're known for, and that's what you're really, really good at. Could you just sort of do is it a CliffsNotes thing of your history? You first started your business. Like you went through your sailing, you went through your years 7. You got your sailing boat 12, Could you quickly run through that set of events?
I was. So at school, I wasn't really into the sports. I hated cricket, hated football. I was a little bit asthmatic. So I found my thing that I would like doing is windsurfing and sailing. And I started when I was about 7. And then, as it turned out, by the time I was 20 odd, I came second in the world titles. So I really learnt a lot from that. Sailing is a very interesting sport because it prepares you well for business in that you're always up against nature and it changes every day. There's no 2 races that will have the same conditions, and that's like the real world. You'll get slapped around a lot in business, and some people just give up easily. But if one day it's blowing a gale, the next day it's a drifter, the wind's coming from a different direction. It really trains you well, but it's also a team sport. And you also have to be really good with your equipment and your strategy and tactics. So you've got to look after your gear or it breaks. You have to be able to be the best in the circumstances at any given time. And when you get into the bigger stuff like the 18-foot skiffs, you have 3 different masts and 3 different size rigs. So depending on the size of the breeze, and you have to guess which one's going to be right for the day. And that's physically tough. I went to the gym like 3 days a week to train for that. But aside from school, when we left school, I started accounting because my parents thought it'd be a good course to do. And I didn't get a good enough mark to go to university, so I had to do via the TAFE thing. But as soon as I started, I got glandular fever, and so I had a year off, and I did labouring jobs and courier jobs, and I really worked some tough jobs for very little money. And learnt the value of a hard day's work for not that much pay. In fact, it was sort of just enough to pay for my fuel and food because I was driving a V8 at the time. Cars were my other interest.
Yeah.
And I went, so I started again the next year, and I went a year and a half into that until my parents lost everything. They lost all their money in the 80s crash, or sort of late 80s, beginning of 1990 odd. So I had to go and get a real job. So I went and got a debt collection job, and turned out I was really good at it. Firstly, telephone collections, because I'd been lucky enough to work with my grandfather in his backyard. He was a timber broker, but he was as blind as you get. And he would be there on the phone, this one and then that one. So he'd be buying here and selling there and making a 3% margin. So I learnt all these skills that I didn't know I had about telephone sales. And when I went to the debt collection firm in the office, I was able to get people to pay the money. And after a few months of that, I ended up going to a big finance company called GMAC, which was General Motors. And I did telephone collections and then went out into the field and started doing repossessions. So I was literally dragging people's cars down their driveway while they're screaming at me and threatening to kill me. And I was all of 20, 21 years old,
Wow.
So it was pretty formative. And from that I went into an administration role, like, office clerk / accounting type function with Vodafone, which started in Australia. But I was assigned to a sales unit. I didn't really know much about sales, but I was, as it turns out, I was sort of put with the very best of the best from Xerox.
Hey.
The sales director, the sales manager, they all came across from Xerox to run this new technology thing. And about the same time, we were having our first baby, and my salary wasn't enough. So I asked if I could go into sales. And they said, no, we need you in the role you're doing. And so I went down to the local car dealer and convinced him to employ me as a BMW salesperson. And in fact, I went to the Toyota dealer across the road, and it was between me and some other lady, and they hired the other lady. So that was a bit. I learnt from that. So I fought much harder for my BMW job.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad to get the Toyota job. And within 12 months of that BMW job, I was the number one salesperson in the whole country. And within 2 years of there, I had been approached to talk to the guys at Mercedes-Benz, because apparently I could earn more money and not have to work Sundays. And it was true. I earned a lot more money and worked a little less, although I still worked my butt off. But I literally couldn't work on Sunday because it was closed. But in BMW, I worked 7 days a week. I mean, I've never worked so hard in my life. And that I rode that all the way through to sales management and general management. And in the end, I was basically, Mercedes would tell a dealer, you've got to hire this guy, he's going to come and fix up your dealership. And I did that the last two places I worked. I just went in and just cleaned it out and grew it. I always doubled the results or more, turned them from loss to a profit, and by millions on the bottom line. And that was my specialty. So if you can imagine now, I'm running $50 million a year business in my last job, and at the same time at home at 9:30 at night till 2 in the morning, learning how to build a website, feeling very frustrated. So it was such a contrast. I had 70 people by day, and I was running the show, and at night it was just me trying to figure out HTML. So it was such a ridiculous scenario. But here we are now. You fast forward 4 years down the track, and I've really gotten back to my old role. I'm now the general manager again, with the team doing all the stuff and me steering the ship and making the strategy decisions. So I've gotten back to where I was. I now have more employees than my old dealership, and we now make more profit than my old dealership. But I don't even have a showroom or stock.
Man, that's a top story, man. It's like you've really come from grassroots, learned life lessons through your jobs and your various situations, and that you've been able to kind of leverage that information to do what you do. Have you had like coaching along the way for specific areas of your business, or have you just kind of figured it out, just done what you thought was right?
I've never paid a coach ever. For anything. What I have done that's different to most people is I read a lot of books, and I hear many adults bitch and moan that they can't read or they don't like reading. Well, they're going to be poor. I mean, seriously, I've got over 1,000 books sitting in my bookshelf here, and a lot of Kindles burning up gigabytes on my iPad, and they've made me They've prepared me to run a business. I read everything I can about sales, management, strategy, negotiation, personal performance, like everything I can get my hands on. The other thing is I learned the lessons from my managers, good ones and bad ones. I had mentors who didn't know they were my mentors, probably. And at one stage I worked for an absolute lunatic, multimillionaire. And I learnt a lot from him.
Lunatic in a good way or a bad way, or both?
Crazy lunatic, like in a bad way, I guess. But gosh, the lessons I learnt from him. I teach some of my own staff and people who I coach. I have a mastermind group that I facilitate. There's about 35 people that pay me to teach them, and I basically double businesses. If there's anything I'm good at, it's taking a 6-figure business and making it into a 7-figure business. If someone's making $100,000 a year now, I could easily get them to $500,000 or $1 million over time. And I've done this. I've taken people from like 30 grand a year to over $1 million in sales. So that's my skill set. And I've done it for my own business. I've just started from nothing, like literally registered a business and started off my own from zero. And it now does several $1 million a year, which, I'm quite proud of, but it just works. And that's the thing. And it's not a common skill. But yeah, I'd say I haven't had a coach, but I've learnt a lot from other people. I take in the lesson. I mean, I can learn stuff from you. Something you say or do, even in this call, might teach me something that I'll just observe and take in. Like, obviously, one of the things that you have in spades is this genuineness and a desire to really help people, and you care about them. And you're asking a lot of questions that are tied in with what your audience wants to know. So I'm learning the preferences of your audience from your questions.
Okay.
That help me understand the market better as well. So you can learn from everyone around you, even if they're unrelated, might seem unrelated, but there's clues everywhere. I see your bass guitar in the background, so I'm guessing you're probably musical, right? So that even tells me a lot about you and some of your personal preferences, and like you wouldn't like corporate bureaucracy, for example, because the artist in you would reject that.
Yeah. I hate working for the man. Like I've never have, like, ever since I was a kid. My first jobs, I just recognized this sucks. My first way of trying to get out was playing in bands. And I learned a lot about promotion and out on the street, hand and fly. If you're wearing a metal shirt and it's a metal band, it's like target market. Come to the gig, man. Come to the gig. We've got a gig on.
Exactly.
Exactly. So yeah, it's the same deal. You pegged me. What else would you say? Just like based on what you've seen of me, just our first interaction today. What else would you?
I'd say you're probably quite auditory. Because you've got a nice microphone, the same one I use.
Yeah.
And also, you don't mind investing in the good gear to do the right job, because you've got an accessory there. You've got, looks like you have the shock mount, and it looks like it's on a swing arm. There you go. So they don't come standard, right? So you probably have a good relationship with your music store provider, and you probably like to spend a bit of time there looking at things down there and enjoy good gadgets.
Yeah, man, you spotted it well. That's good. Yeah, it's just interesting to see what other people perceive you as, because you just never know. Yeah, I have an idea. You have an idea of who you are, but who you're perceived as is very different. Yeah, it's
one thing that I did that I didn't mention in my story there is I was very underconfident after school, and my mum offered to go halves in acting classes. She saw an ad for acting classes. And so I went along to acting classes, and each week we would get a script, and then the next week we would film it. And then the next week we'd go back and he'd rip us to shreds. He'd tell us what we're doing wrong and how we could improve, and give us a new script, and then we'd do this for like 10 weeks in a row. And I did it for 4 years. And the best way to get confident is to just keep going on camera and watch yourself back, and you'll get rid of all your you'll find out that you lisp when you're tired, or you'll find out that you have a nervous twitch or whatever, because you can't see that normally.
Yeah.
So don't practice in front of a mirror. Practice in front of a camera. That's why I put out videos all the time. I'm quite fearless with recording stuff, but at the beginning I was quite nervous about it. And I think if you really want to be powerful online, then being able to record audio and video will give you an advantage, because a lot of people are scared of doing that. So if you put yourself out there, then you'll open up your available market reach.
All right, man. We've covered sort of most of what I wanted to talk about anyway, without actually having to ask my little list of questions there. It just kind of just naturally come about. Just two things. What excites you about life and business, just in general? Like what gets you going every day?
I'm actually now I'm actually learning to be more of an artist, which sounds funny coming out of my mouth, because people would say that I'm analytical, systemized, disciplined, but I now have the freedom to express myself more than I used to be able to. So for that reason, I got myself a nice camera, and I'm putting out more expressive videos than I've ever done before. And my market's just soaking it up. They say, this is good, we like this. And that makes me happy, because I can be myself and really just open up. I've had this bottled up for a long time, and I'm now just, I can do it. I don't have compromise. That's what I like, and that's what my mentor taught me. Taught me a lot about compromise. So to not have debt and to be able to do what I want each day and to work on projects that interest me is lack of compromise. So I enjoy that the most.
Excellent, man. I can resonate with that 100%. So, man, where's the best place to send people to? You mentioned the Build a Website link. What was that one again?
That's superfastwebsites.com.
Yep. Okay. And where would you want people to kind of go to get kind of where you want them to be? You know, what?
Well, it doesn't matter where I want them to be. It matters where they want to be.
Yeah.
But if they want to find out what I've got, they should go to superfastbusiness.com, and that has a newsletter. They should join that because I'll send out regular videos, and they're very short. They're only 2 or 3 minutes long because I don't want to waste their time. But I do cover topics like internet marketing and business. So a lot of the things we've talked about today. And I review products that are good and I tell people which ones to avoid. But, you know, my honest opinion, I'll never say something good about a product if I really think it's shit. And I'm certainly happy to call a bad product because I just think people deserve to have the truth. And that is the best site. It also has a products page and a media page. There'll be interviews like this and other ones that I've done.
Awesome, dude. So, guys, those links are going to be down there ready for you just to click over, check out, jump on his list, and learn from the best. And he's, just from my interaction with you today, man, like you really seem like a guy that's like totally coming from a place of integrity, and that's really awesome. So
it's the only place to be.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show today, man. For me, it's been a thrill. I've had you kind of on my list to kind of ask you at some point, but I wasn't ready, and then I got to a point. I went, you know what, I'm going to ask him, and you came on. So, man, I really appreciate that, and you've given a lot of value today to our community, and I think you're an awesome dude.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Peter, and your community's lucky that you care so much about them. I think that you'll go a long way with that attitude.
Excellent, man. Well, you make it a great day, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.